Good morning. Like and subscribe if the truth does not hurt you. Like and subscribe if you believe in the Creator and you have a sense of morals and justice. Now, let's begin. Now, the first thing I want to do is to preface what I'm going to say by saying this. There is no such thing as a slave owner. No one has the right to own another person. There are people who are slaveholders, but no one owns another individual. Now, the next thing we need to do is to reframe the narrative. We need to reframe the narrative about reparations. Reparations is not something to be decided in the court of public opinion. And as we all know, opinions are seldom based on facts. We need to be factual. And if you are the descendant of a lineal Hebrew Israelite / African American that was enslaved, and you do not want reparations, then you should sign a waiver. If you feel that reparations aren't owed to you, sign a waiver. And this is something I know you won't do. So shut it up. Now, this is actually a matter for the court system, like I said, not to be tried in the court of public opinion, where TV personalities play on people's emotions with no facts, and they always twist the narrative in a direction that is emotional and not factual. So we need to dispense with the ridiculousness, and this should go to a court of law. Now, the purpose of this video is to enlighten those lineal Hebrew Israelites / African Americans as to why we are owed reparations. Now, to begin with, when there is an injustice done, it is usually twofold. One, there is criminal liability. Two, there is usually civil liability or economic liability. Now, Caucasians who say that their parents never owned slaves, and even those whose parents did own slaves, do not owe criminal liability. You do not owe criminal liability for the wrongs that were done by your parents. But if you have benefited economically for the wrongs done by your parents to lineal Hebrew Israelite / African American, then you owe a debt to lineal people held in bondage because you have benefited from it. You owe that. Not only do you owe that, the government of the United States of America, which is a going concern, even though it legalized this in 1776, it still owes economic liability for what it has done and what has transpired over the years and what still transpires over the years, and the United States government has allowed it to happen, and therefore, under the Constitution, owes liability. So let me rephrase this. There is criminal liability and economic liability. Caucasians, if your parents did not own slaves, then you do not own criminal liability. If your parents did own slaves, you still do not owe criminal liability because you did not commit the crime. So let's separate criminal liability from economic liability. They are two different things. So don't think that because you do not owe criminal liability that it releases you from owing economic liability. It does not, because you have benefited from it. I want to say this. Criminal liability, you can't put a monetary value on. You can't put the loss of life in terms of dollars and cents. But we can put economic liability because we can talk about what was lost financially to the people who were done an injustice to, and economic injustice to. So let's talk about slavery. Free labor built this country. The economic foundation of the United States of America was built on the free labor of African Americans / Hebrew Israelites. That's how this country was built. So the country got its start with free labor. How much is that worth? Can we even put a monetary amount of money on that? I don't know. I don't know. But to this day, you have what's called old money. And these are people who owned slaves and their whole family's wealth is based on slavery. And with that, the foundation of the United States of America is also built on that wealth. Now, moving on. After the abolition of slavery, what happened? Well, the slaves were promised 40 acres and a mule. Slaves did not receive the 40 acres and a mule. So money and interest is owed to the descendants of those slaves. Also, the slave holders were given compensation for slavery, for the work that slaves done. That money should have been given to the slaves, not the slave holders, because they benefited their entire life off of this free labor, and they owe money to the slaves. And the money that the government gave to the slave holders should have been given to the slaves along with the 40 acres and a mule. The slave holders, they should be allowed to keep their property, even though they did no work for it. Let them keep their property. So that sounds fair to me. I want you to understand something. We are not talking about giving away money the way the United States is giving $3.9 billion every year to Israel, who has a $2.6 billion surplus. Israel has a $2.6 billion surplus, and we still give them $3.9 billion a year. We have brought immigrants into this country, and some of them are being given $9,000 a month for 6 months for housing and other things. We have also given billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, and Ukraine has done nothing for the United States of America. Neither has Israel. In fact, Israel bombed the USS Liberty, an American spy ship. They bombed it. They gave us no compensation for that, so I don't know why we're giving them money anyway. As we are talking about the lineal profits of the slaveholders, we have to talk about the lineal deduction of former slaves. We had 140 black banks in the 1920s. We had the Tulsa, Oklahoma race riot. That was the destruction of what we call Black Wall Street. See, these are our lineal inheritance that was taken from us with the destruction of Black Wall Street, 140 black banks, and towns and cities were also destroyed, and the government put them underneath lakes. Lake Lanier is an instance of a black city being placed underneath a lake after Caucasians rioted and tore the place down. And it wasn't that long ago. As far as I'm concerned, reparations are owed for these towns and cities and for the black capital that was lost. We owe compensation for that. Moving forward to the Jim Crow laws. Lack of jobs. Denial of jobs. Reparations are owed for that. Predatory lending. Reparations are owed for that because the predatory lenders were Caucasian families. You see, even though your family may not have had a hand in owning slaves, you still profited off of black cities, black towns, black banks being destroyed. You profited off of that. It is a part of your lineal heritage, financial heritage. To save even more time, let's talk about the patents given to slaveholders for the inventions that slaves invented. You see, you have Caucasians who have corporations that are based on these inventions by slaves. And these companies hire Caucasians and deny work to the lineal sons and daughters of those slaves. See, the disparity in income is owed to lineal African Americans, Hebrew Israelites who were enslaved by the Caucasians who live today. You benefit from that. You benefit by a lack of education and a lack of jobs and predatory lending that you allow to happen today. If you are not a part of the solution, then you are, of course, a part of the problem, especially when you benefit from it in your suburban neighborhoods where we are denied access. I mean, I could go on and on on and on. But for lack of time, I'm going to cut it short. And I'm going to read something. In essence, the amount of money would bankrupt the country. A lot of people say that. And my answer to that is, if it does, so what? People who make bad business decisions go bankrupt every day. However, businesses owned by progeny of slaves were put in positions where financial ruin was inevitable. Where financial ruin was inevitable. But understand this. Understand this. Nobody is trying to bankrupt the country, even if that's possible, because all they do is just bank more. All they do is just make more money, and give trillions and trillions of dollars away to banks. So there's nothing. And if you got money to give to immigrants and stuff like that, free money, you should pay your debt. Understand this. We are not talking about criminal liability, because if your parents owned slaves, that and used slaves and used the babies for alligator bait, you cannot be criminally charged for what demonic things your people did. But you can be charged for the economic deceit caused by your parents during slavery, during Jim Crow law, during systemic racism that exists to this day. Now, my proposal is that, first of all, this should go to a court of law. But my proposal is this. The first thing that should be done toward reparations is the elimination of taxes for all lineal Hebrew Israelites / African Americans for a generation after we receive at least $10 million per person. $10 million per person to be paid in a lump sum with no taxes charged to it. No taxes. That is a starting point to negotiate an out-of-court settlement. That is a starting point for an out-of-court settlement. Those of you who don't want reparations, sign a waiver. But I'm going to tell you this. We're going to be paid reparations. We are African Americans / Hebrew Israelites. We're going to be paid reparations if you pay attention to what is going on internationally. We're going to be paid reparations. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. The United States cannot win World War III. The United States and Africa is on the rise. BRICS, if you don't know what BRICS is, then BRICS, then you need to look it up. Because I'm not going to try to explain all that. But reparations is going to be paid. And the United States is already backtracking on its support of Israel. Because see, Iran told them, don't you dare. Russia told them, don't you dare. And the United States is not the superpower that you think it is. You can't be a superpower with 250 bases all over the world, because all those bases have to be defended and supplied. That is impossible to do when the people of those countries can cut the water, food, and electricity off. That was a stupid thing to do. Also, who are America's allies in this? Israel, the perpetrator, Canada, and that's about it. The UK is staying quiet on this. They're being quiet. And even when we look at the allies of the United States, Israel is dependent upon us militarily. Canada is dependent upon us militarily. France is in a position where they can be blown off the map. And England is eerily quiet because they know the United States got nothing coming. And I'm gonna tell you something else. The United States we like to talk about we won World War II. We won World War II. World War II was won by United States and Russia. United States and Russia. United States can't go toe to toe with Russia with the backing of North Korea and China and Iran and Turkey. And none of these people are dependent upon Russia for anything like the United States allies are dependent upon the United States. So if the United States gets into World War III, it's really the United States against the world. We will get reparations. We will get reparations, but I'm not going into all that. I want this to be understand this. Reparations should be decided in a court of law. And so much money is owed, we might as well get an out-of-court settlement for money. Not programs that can be taken, not programs like affirmative action. Cash money. Capitalism is based on money. Money in this country is freedom. With that, like and subscribe. Talk to you later. Leave a comment, and we can hash it out again. Peace. God bless you all.